In this lesson, we will be covering how to create fillet features inside of Autodesk Inventor. A fillet is a placed feature, so what that means is I no longer have to create a sketch to create a fillet. To create a fillet, from the Part Features panel, I'm going to scroll on down and select the fillet option. The shortcut is the letter F. And inside the dialog box, we have three different tabs: the constant, variable, and setback. And we also have three options on the left. We have our edge fillet, face fillet, as well as we have the full round fillet, and we will be covering all of these options inside of this lesson. The edge fillet is the most common, and what I'm going to do here is I can select the radius, so I'm going to change that to 3, and then click where it says selected for the edges. And what that will allow me to do is physically select edges in the graphics window. As you can see, I can select the edges through the part if I wanted to. I can hold down the F4 key, and I can select any edge that I want. You'll see that I'm getting the real-time preview. So if I think that's a little large, maybe I'll change that down to 1.5. And when I'm okay with that, I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. Spin the model around to see that that fillet has been created. Now if I change my mind with that fillet, I can right-click, edit feature, and let's change that back to 3. I want it to be a little bit larger, and we can go ahead and do that. I can also do other edits with that. With the selected edges, if I didn't want to fillet the two vertical edges, I can hold down the controller's Shift key and remove them from the selection set. Whereas I can also go back and select the bottom edge, in this case if that's what I want it to do. You can see dramatically changing the way that part looks. I'm going to go ahead and delete that fillet. And let's take a look at some other options here. With the fillet tool, let's say I want to place in a 1.5 millimeter fillet on the top side. I could also click here where it says click to add. I'm going to change that fillet size to 3. And then I'm going to select the bottom edge. So you'll notice I'm going to create a 1.5 and a 3 millimeter fillet. And it all gets encompasses into a single feature in the browser. Now sometimes you'll have to do that to create a real complex fillet to get the specific edge that you want. But in this case, this may be kind of difficult for people to go back and edit later. So probably what I would have done for a better strategy is placed each fillet as a separate feature. So you'll notice when I placed in the fillet, it's selecting, let me move this back over, it's selecting all of the edges that are tangent to the edge that I'm selecting. Let's say I wanted to run a fillet just off this one edge. I'm going to expand the dialog box, and we have an option here called Automatic Edge Chain. So now with that deselected, I can go back and select my two top lines, click OK, and you see a dramatic result compared to what the other fillet was when I ran it all the way across. So if you want to do that, what you need to do is select the edge chain option before placing in that fillet. The next option that I want to take a look at is going to be working around corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select 3 edges that come together here. And if I expand the dialog box, you'll see that there's rolling ball where possible. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. If I zoom up tight, you'll see if we were to shell that part out and put a small ball in there, it would actually roll right into that corner. Now there is an option. If I go back and edit that feature, go back and expand the dialog box, and I'm going to uncheck automatic or the rolling ball where possible. You can see the result is a lot different on how that fillet is being created inside of that corner. So one more time, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Let's delete that feature. And let's place in one more fillet. this case I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And again, I'm going to select those 3 edges. But I want to take a look at the setbacks option. So with those 3 edges coming together, I can select right where the intersection of those 3 edges are. And what I can define now is going to be the distance that I want it to start its transition from that zero point, if you will. So let's change the first one to 5, and you can see that I'm getting the real-time preview. Let's change that second one to 7, and let's change the third one to 9. Go ahead and apply that. You can see the transition now is different for all 3 edges. So that's the setback option. So what I needed to do is select the 3 edges that form that intersection and then do the setback from there. So I'll just cancel out of that. Again, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now, let's take a look at one more option here. On the right hand side, we have edge or loop. So you notice when I select the edge option, in this case it's selecting the tangency. If I go back and click on the loop option, and I'm selecting on that face, it's selecting everything on that plane, not necessarily just the tangent edges. So if I go ahead and click OK, you'll see very quick, very simple to go back and do that with the loop option selected. So again, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to create a simple feature. Just make that top plane my active sketch. Just going to draw on a rectangle. And we'll go ahead and we'll extrude that. Now with this fillet option, on the right hand side, we have an option to place a fillet along a feature. So if I select that feature, you'll see that it's doing all of the edges on that feature. What it's not doing the edges that would actually combine that to the original body, if you will, or the base feature. So that makes it very easy to do if you want to just do the fillets for a specific feature. Again, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now the next option to go back and take a look at from the fillet is we have all fillets. And you'll see what all fillets, they're actually going to add material, whereas all rounds will go back and remove material. So I could go back if I wanted to set these at a different radius. In this case, I'll leave them all the same. And now we have a nice rounded part with no straight edges on it. For the next option, I'm going to open a file called fillet2, also found in your Chapter 2 exercise folder. And let's take a look at a couple more options here. On the left hand side, I'm going to go to the bottom one here where we have a full round fillet. What a full round fillet is going to allow me to do is I'm going to select 3 planes or 3 faces, and the fillet will be tangent to all 3. So I'll just rotate the model around. Go ahead and click on OK. And I now have a fillet that is basically tangent to all 3 of those faces that I selected. Now in this model, I have an extrusion that's already been created. Just unsuppress it. And this fillet issue here is I have 2 disjointed bodies, so I need to join them together. So again, back to the fillet tool, and I'm going to use our middle option called face fillet. So what face fillet is going to allow me to do is I'm going to select 2 faces, and from those 2 faces you can see that I'm getting the preview. I could go back and change the radius. Let's make it a little bit larger. Let's go ahead and click OK. To create a very complex fillet to join those 2 bodies together. You'll notice that the 2 bodies do intersect each other, if you will. They're like a cross. And that's definitely a requirement, otherwise the fillet wouldn't know how to terminate on each of the other faces. For the last example, I'm going to create a new part file, I'm going to create a simple rectangle. And we'll go ahead and we'll extrude that out. And I'm going to start the fillet tool. I'm going to slide this down so we can see it a little bit easier. And from the variable tab, I'm going to select an edge that I want to place in a fillet. With a variable fillet, what we're going to be able to do is define a starting radius and an ending radius to start off with. So we'll go ahead and we'll start back, let's say, at 5 millimeters. And I can take that down to 1 millimeter. And you notice I have an option here with the smooth transition. If I go ahead and click OK, the fillet that is created is a splined shape transition. I can edit that fillet. And let's uncheck smooth, where now it's going to transition in a straight line. And let's change the graphics to wireframe so you can see it a little bit cleaner. But it's definitely transitioning in a straight line. We'll shade that back. On this opposite side, we'll create one last variable fillet on this edge. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I want it to start off with a 2 millimeter and end with a 2 millimeter. But what I also want to do is I want to have it have a different value right in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a point, and you notice that it shows up here. And the position, this is actually a percentage, so I'm going to go 0.5, so it'll be right in the middle. And let's have it transition up to 5 millimeters. Now you can place as many of these points on your edge that you want, and you'll just define them just as I did here. So again, if I spin that around, let's switch it to a wireframe mode so we can see it. A very complex fillet, very easy to do inside of Autodesk Inventor.